get right to it. So here we go. And I hope this sounds okay. As you see, look, I don't care. Look, I made a mic stand and a mic holder out of all kind of crazy things. So that's me. Anyway, here it is. Chapter 5, Me and T. I was 17 and I needed a ride to Radiotron. I was still living with Rose, but we steered clear of each other. I retreated to my world and she lived in hers. I had no car and no license, but I had to get out of that house as often as possible, and Radiotron was the perfect escape. One Friday night in 1985, I called up a friend who had wheels. He was a handsome Latino whose family owned a local dairy farm. For those familiar with that area, Chino, Corona, Norco, all that, back then we used to call them dairy boys. Anyway, um, he was a handsome Latino whose family owned a local dairy farm. He agreed to drive me to LA in his Porsche, and we arrived in style. MacArthur Park in those days was sketchy, and that's using a nice word to describe the area. If you go there now, some people are pretty worried as they're in that area walking around and stuff like that. To me, I don't know. I guess because I stayed in that area for so long back in those days. It didn't really bother me much, but right now there's a lot of homeless people. Um, it can get a little crazy and a little loud and everything like that. But for the most part, it's a family area really. But there is some pretty I guess sketchy. That's the perfect word for now. Which I have in the book for the area. Um, MacArthur Park in those days was sketchy, and we found a spot right in front of the club. It was around Christmas, and lights were twinkling everywhere. The streets were lined with tinsel and lit up candy canes, and Santas were out panning for cash. I remember everything about that night. I was wearing a gray pleather skirt with black lace tights and Converse. By then, I was nicknamed Glamorous D by the Radiotron regulars, and as soon as I arrived, my buddy Jazzy D passed me the mic. This is funny, pay attention to this because you can still find it. You can still find the video of me on YouTube rapping. Yes, a tiny little bit because Jazzy had me do it. It was fun. But anyway, here we go. So Jazzy passed me the mic. You can still find the video on YouTube. I was doing a little quick rap, and here's how it went. Break dance, coast to coast. It's the thing we like to do the most. Break dance, coast to coast. So cute. But anyway, it's a 17-year-old for you. My wide belt was slung low, my big permed hair adding about 6 inches to my height, darn near. Glitter everywhere, like all over my skin and stuff. I never thought out rapping, but as part of the Radiotron scene, we did a little bit of everything when we were in there. Looking at that clip from 1984, I looked so dang happy. It was so fun to be on that stage, like we were all stars in our own right. I moved onto the dance floor and started doing my thing to Renegades of Funk by Africa Bambaataa, when all of a sudden the music came to a stop, and we looked up and saw a group of guys hopping up on the stage. They were wearing real leather, not like what I had on. They were wearing real leather pants, and the guy with the mic had on a fedora. Woo, he was sharp. The audience started whispering, "Hey, that's that rapper from the Breakin' movies." I was mesmerized by his voice and his presence. He was the flyest. Yes, these are the words we used back in the 80s. He was the flyest guy I'd ever seen. He had moves and style. He was wearing leather gloves with the fingers cut out and a studded belt, wraparound belt, just like I had, with a Porsche Carrera sunglasses. When he, okay, here we go. Lost my place. See? When his set ended, because he was on the microphone, I just wanted to get right back to the dance floor. So I was kind of like already over it, like, all right, whoever these guys are did their thing. Okay, anyway, back to the music and the dancing. My friend Animation, another rest in peace, by the way. A few years ago, Animation passed away. He was a dancer. My friend Animation, another Radiotron regular, started making his way across the dance floor on over to me. He was pointing behind him like he was warning me, right? So, like if somebody's walking up to you, but the people behind you, they don't want you or them to see them on their way to me talking to me. So he was giving me a warning as he's coming closer to me. He's like, doing this in front of him. So where people behind him couldn't see him pointing, like, and he's making this kind of like a worry face. It was weird. I was like, what's up? Anyway, so he was walking over to me as he's pointing behind him like he was warning me. When he reached me, he whispered, "That guy Ice T wanted me to come over here and tell you that he wants to talk to you." "I just want to warn you," he said. "Those aren't the kind of guys that you're used to, Darlene." And I asked him, "Well, what does he want to talk to me about?" And Animation said, "He's got an album or something coming out soon, and he said he wants you to be on the cover." I rolled my eyes because even at my age at 17, I knew that was a line. But that's when my date, the dairy boy, said, "You should go and talk to him. It could be a good opportunity." I rolled my eyes so tough because I couldn't figure out what was worse, staying on this side of the dance floor with the naive dairy boy or going over to the other side of the dance floor and talking to the leather clad rapper with the lines and the hustle. I looked over at the rapper, though, from afar, and I could see his big grin. And for the first time, I noticed his dimples, and then I saw his hazel eyes. By the time I made my way on over to him, he was holding court with a group of young fans. I watched how he talked to these kids, inspiring them and making them laugh. I could tell that they looked up to him. He turned his attention over to me, and he started pouring on the compliments. "Girl, your eyes are so beautiful, and look at that smile." He was really pouring it on thick. He invited me to have a seat. I remember how everyone was watching us from afar. The whole club seemed to have stopped and was just like watching this unfold. He started asking about me and about my life. When I started to tell him my age, though, I said, He stopped. "Oh, hell no," he said. So before he could get too worked up, though, I told him, "Oh, hold on. I'm about to turn 18." And he looked very relieved, which I was in February. So he told me he just wrecked his car and that he had no wheels. And when I told him I lived in Corona, a solid darn near 2 hours from LA, he looked a little sad, kind of bummed. Back then, Riverside County was a world away. He told me he'd had a girl living with him, but even though the relationship was over, he didn't want to put her out on the street. He was upfront about everything, and I wasn't even used to men speaking so honestly. He was looking straight into my eyes, and he kept saying, "Man, I'm really feeling you." He asked if he could have my number, and when we went again, remember, no cell phones, guys. It's 1984, just about to turn 1985. He was upfront about everything. He looked straight in my eyes and kept saying, "Man, I'm really feeling you." So he asked if he could have my number. Of course, this is your house number. And when we went to exchange numbers, he told me he didn't have a phone. So I'm thinking, no wheels, no phone, and a girlfriend still living at the house. Kinda sketchy. But he was so charming, and there was something about his honesty that felt right. By the time we said goodbye, my ride had actually left. Yes, the dairy boy got a little in his feelings. Hey, he was the one who told me to go on over there. Let me fix his page. That's so funny. So my ride had left. Oh, yes, he was pissed. But I didn't care. I hitched a ride home with another dancer, and I thought about Tracy the entire ride back. I was shocked when he called the very next day. He wasn't playing. Unfortunately, though, Rose got to the phone first. Oh, I was horrified listening to her giving him the third degree. She finally yelled up to me, even though I was peeking downstairs, listening to her talk to him. Darlene, this sounds like a grown ass man calling for you. I ran to the phone. And from then on, we spent hours at a time getting to know each other over Pac Bell. Look that one up, youngsters. He was calling me from a payphone at the top of Beechwood Canyon in Hollywood. That's where he stayed. He apologized because every few minutes we'd be interrupted by the operator asking for more change. Yes, guys, I know. This is such crazy long time ago. He apologized because every few minutes we'd be interrupted by the operator asking for more change, but he always had plenty of coins. We made a plan for him to come visit. As luck would have it, no lie, his manager at the time, this was so crazy, lived in Riverside. See, even though I lived in Riverside County, I lived in Corona. So where his manager lived was still like another, 20 minutes further. Isn't that so? It's so strange how things already were starting to like line up for us. It was quite interesting, to say the least. Super weird energy in the best way. So his manager lived in Riverside. So we set a date to meet at his manager's house. The big event was set for next Friday. So darn near a week after we first ever met in person. Tracy, that's his real name, Tracy took a Greyhound bus, can you believe that, from LA. People might find it hard to believe that Ice-T would ride public transportation, but back then, there was no shame in his game. Still isn't, really. Again, let me tell you, he had a name for himself already and already did the break-in movies and all that and had a bunch of cars, Porsche, whatever, was making money as a hustler. But at that very moment, he was right. He had wrecked his last car and he was trying to stay on the straight and narrow to be, a rapper. Didn't want to do anything wrong. So bless his heart. So he rode the Greyhound bus, no joke, from Los Angeles. The entire day, I was at school. So the entire day at school, I couldn't concentrate on anything else. Mind you, it was Friday. I kept waiting for the clock to strike 3 p.m. When it finally came, I begged a girlfriend to drive me to Riverside to hang out for a while. Of course, not a lot of people had cars. And this girl, oh, bless your heart, Gladys, who I still talk to, hey. So I begged her, could she please give me a ride? I told her, it's to Riverside. I'm just going to hang out and you can hang out for a while. I didn't even have to look for the street address because as we were rolling up, there were actually kids gathered around the front of his manager's house. They were peering in the windows, trying to see Tracy. I mean, he had such a look to himself. And of course, if you were able to talk to him, then you really like, what? This guy is something else. I don't know if they had recognized him from break-in or if it was just his magnetism. That's the word. But he always seemed to draw people towards him, even back then. He was waiting for me at the door. I took one look at him and I just wanted to jump his bones. I was so turned on. No lie. He offered to take me on a tour of the house, and I thought that that was just a line. I thought, okay, me and him going off by ourselves. Come on, I'm going to take you on a tour of the house. And there I go. Oh, I thought, okay, all right. I was preparing for you know what, make my move. But he actually took me on a tour of the house. The irony is, he wanted to take things nice and slow. As unbelievable as it may sound, he wanted to meet my family first. I was shocked. I figured he just wanted to get me alone. But he was the total opposite of what people would assume. There was no way I was taking him home to meet Rose. That thought didn't even cross my mind. So I told him that everyone in my Ortiz family would be over at my aunt's house today because it was Friday. Couldn't believe it. It was like our very, very first day. First date, first day, other than the night I met him. So I told him that almost my entire Ortiz family would be over at my aunt's house, and he said, like right off the top of that very second, off the top of his head, he was like, "Well, let's roll." I was like, so my girlfriend drove us to her home in Corona and dropped us off. And the moment he walked in, I'm sorry, my friend that drove me to his manager's house, drove us to my aunt's in Corona and dropped us off. And the moment that he walked in the door, he turned it on. He charmed my entire family. Oh, and he could be so charming. We still, no lie, still have photos, Polaroids. We still have photos of him holding my pregnant aunt's stomach, posing with my cousins. My family had ordered pizza, and he insisted on paying. Now, that may sound like a small thing, but for my family, it was really a big deal. Little did they know how generous he would be as his fame exploded. But on that night, that small token will always be remembered as very special. Everyone was impressed by him. They knew how excited I was that he was coming to visit even that week before. And before he left, they all gave me the thumbs up. His manager came to pick him up, and that was the beginning of the next 17 years of my life. Woo! That was like I said, I'm going to find those pictures because they didn't make it into the book. I remember looking for my aunt to find those pictures, and she didn't get them in time. So I'm going to find him and we'll add him at some point. But for now, I know I might have him. I'll look for him. But anyway, the photo in the book, and again, we'll do a little shot side by side so you can see it better. But I'm just going to do a quick little. That was our first date. That's so funny that our son looks like both of us there. Anyway, so there you go. Woo! That was pretty darn exciting. Chapter 5. Ow, all right, guys. So the next chapter 6, it's a longer one too. Oh, nice. It's going to be a nice one. So there we go. Woo! Exciting. Yeah. No, I remember that day. That day was something else. He's always been such a nice guy. Okay, so yeah, okay, we broke up, and yes, there's some things that, like I said, I was very upset about how everything ended and everything between us. But now, look at us now. Look at all of us now. Again, if people are on the up and up and treat each other with respect, things end up working out all right, pretty good, and especially for any children that are involved. So my son's dad, and moi, I'm his mom. So we do and did our best to get along well. Of course, the very beginning, that's coming up in the next chapters, weren't that great, but wow, did we overcome everything. So there you go, guys. Chapter 5 is done. Again, I appreciate you guys for coming here and checking things out. Again, remember I put my hair up so quick and it was just hot. Now I'm actually cold because the air is on and everything. Anyway, so chapter 6 I will get done this week. I'm gonna take everything down because I can't have my hair up too long. It starts to give me a headache. I don't know about anybody else. But anyway, so here we go. And again, low maintenance, gals, whatever. We just, we quick to do whatever. I'm about to go take what makeup I do have on off. There we go. No glasses, guys, but glasses do make like indentations. See? Right there. Right there. And again, look. No nail polish. But I'm gonna go polish them in the morning before I go on this date. Anyway, so thanks again, you guys. Chapter 5 in the can. Woo!